This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. Good evening. Official hurricane warnings go up along the Texas coast. The killer hurricane dominates the news tonight. You are looking at live satellite pictures of the most powerful storm ever officially recorded in the Western Hemisphere, and it's now headed for the United States. Hurricane Gilbert, packing winds that gusted to more than 200 miles an hour, smashed into Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula during the day. As Gilbert's forward winds slashed through ancient Mayan ruins and beach resorts, thousands fled the Mexican coast, forcing evacuation of entire cities. This massive storm that's been marauding since Sunday through parts of the Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and to a lesser extent the Cayman Islands, hovered near the north coast of Yucatan late today. The U.S. National Hurricane Center in Coral Gables, Florida, is tracking the hurricane, and correspondent Bernard Goldberg is there. I spoke to him just a few moments ago. Bernie, what's the situation right now?
Well, Dan, a hurricane watch has just gone into effect for the entire Texas coast as well as northeast Mexico. If Gilbert continues on its present course, and Dan, I want to emphasize, I say if it continues on its present course, target could be Brownsville, Texas, sometime around Friday afternoon. Now the latest numbers. Maximum sustained winds, 140 miles an hour. They're increasing even as we speak as the hurricane goes back over water. It's heading north-northwest at about 15 miles an hour. Forecasters say there's about a 16% chance that Brownsville, Texas could take a direct hit. About a 12% chance it would go up to Galveston, less chance New Orleans, about 6%, and virtually no chance for Mobile, Alabama. They're putting it at about 4%. But as we speak, Dan, Gilbert is heading in the direction of Brownsville, Texas.
Bernie, how much stock should we put in these projections?
Well, Dan, you know as well as anybody that this is not an exact science. You hear around here a lot. There are no certainties. Right now, it's heading towards Brownsville.
Thanks, Bernie. This monster storm's attack on Jamaica was particularly fierce. At least 5 people are known to be dead in Jamaica, with that number expected to climb, and as many as 500,000 Jamaicans are homeless. Juan Vasquez reports from Kingston.
Jamaica is still reeling today from the shock of Hurricane Gilbert, the worst natural disaster to strike this Caribbean island in modern times. When it roared over the home of Christopher Steele, he thought the world was crashing down around him.
It sounded like an explosion, you know? So I couldn't believe when the tree fell, you know?
He's not alone. The government believes that 4 out of every 5 homes were damaged or destroyed. The storm cut a path straight across the island, leaving so much destruction it is hard to say which section suffered the most. Roofs were torn to bits, their pieces left dangling from telephone wires. Huge trees were uprooted everywhere and scattered across the landscape. Scores of business buildings were shattered. The hurricane was so violent it cut down power lines all across the island, leaving Jamaica without electricity. Now authorities are afraid to restore power because they fear the downed electrical lines could lead to accidental electrocutions. Joan Kimball ran into the street when the hurricane tore off the roof of her house, only to be struck by flying glass which severed her ear. Some of her neighbors have no homes either.
The house broke down, the guinea tree fall down and I mash it down.
Authorities still don't know how many were killed and injured by Hurricane Gilbert because telephone service has not been restored and many small towns have been cut off from the rest of the island by flooded roads and destroyed bridges. Those like Emmanuel, Scotland, who sought shelter from the storm elsewhere, don't know if they have a home to go back to.
Oh heavens, first in my life I've ever seen nothing like this.
Storm warnings are so frequent in the Caribbean at this time of year that many residents paid no heed when they heard Hurricane Gilbert was forming. Now the only thing they can do is pick up the pieces and hope that international aid can get here soon. Juan Vasquez, CBS News, Kingston, Jamaica.
With the hurricane still about 600 miles southeast of Brownsville, hurricane watches, official ones, went up along the Texas coast tonight, and people braced for the storm. Some people. Peter Van Sant reports.
All residents of Grand Isle are requested to evacuate the island.
Thousands of people along the U.S. Gulf Coast have begun evacuations, heading for higher and safer ground away from the projected path of Hurricane Gilbert. In Texas, residents of the Bolivar Peninsula east of Galveston were ordered out of their homes and ferried to the mainland. In Corpus Christi, residents are boarding up their homes, while down at the local hardware store, protective plywood is in short supply. And in Galveston, worried residents, fearful that Hurricane Gilbert has their town in his sights, are also trying to fortify their homes.
I think it's time to get ready and time to go. We were here through Carla and through Alicia, and this one is just a little too much.
Despite warnings that a deadly hurricane may be headed this way, some Galveston residents say they won't evacuate, even though this island may be flooded.
Just go for it, you know, experience it, something different.
What if you experience death in the course of all that?
Well, I'll worry about that later.
We've been through it, you know, so we can take our chances. We survive one way or the other, I hope.
While some Galveston residents are enjoying the rougher seas, city officials are worried that many will die if Hurricane Gilbert strikes with full force.
Probably a town half destroyed, at least 10,000 people dead. Because we don't anticipate more than a 60% evacuation here.
Those who feel they can ride out the storm are stocking up on basic survival supplies. But experts say the best preparation in threatened areas is to evacuate or face one of the most dangerous hurricanes of the century. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Galveston.
And still to come on tonight's CBS Evening News, Bob McNamara with a hurricane history lesson that some may have forgotten. And Bert Quint on a weather detour for the Pope and terrorism at his destination.
Hi.
Hello.
You use this in the machine?
Will I? Wouldn't dare do this wash without it.
Well, why do it at all? That sweater's brand new.
Looks brand new. It's 3 years old.
You're kidding. How about that blouse?
2 years old.
And this?
Never mind.
And they're machine washable.
Sure. And I use Will I?
Will you show me how to use it?
Your machine or mine?
No matter whose machine you use, trust Will I.
Traffic 2, over.
The Ford Tempo GLS. A sophisticated sports sedan with true feel-of-the-road handling. Ford Tempo GLS. A sleek example of design leadership. It's a more sophisticated way to express your driving ambition.
Now get a $400 cash bonus on Ford Tempo.
This Olympic coin brings it all back. Carl Lewis.
Support our athletes with U.S. Olympic gold or silver commemorative coins. Help America shine. Offered by the U.S. Mint.
Honey, where's the ice cream? With our new Whirlpool refrigerator, I don't hear that anymore. Shelves in the refrigerator and baskets in the freezer slide out, so nothing gets hidden away.
Oh, seem like golf clubs?
If they're in there, you'll find them.
Whirlpool. For Pope John Paul, this was an extraordinary travel day. He made an unscheduled stop, something he's never done before in his trips abroad, and his arrival in the nation of Lesotho coincided with a hostage situation which ended in a bloody shootout. 4 people killed, 11 injured. Bert Quint, who is traveling with the Pope, has details.
It was a familiar scene, the Pope in still another foreign country, but it wasn't on the schedule, and this time, no kissing of the ground. John Paul had turned down an invitation to come here, saying he wouldn't visit South Africa until it changed its racist policies. Yet here he was in Johannesburg. It wasn't a change of heart, it was a change in the weather. And South Africa's authorities couldn't help feeling there was a silver lining to the clouds that forced the papal jet to abandon its route and set down here. For them, it was a diplomatic coup.
We consider it to be a privilege to be of assistance.
The pontiff was flying from Botswana to Lesotho, a small mountain kingdom surrounded by the Republic of South Africa. There, a crowd of faithful, drenched with freezing rain, waited. Also waiting were 4 armed guerrillas who were holding a busload of pilgrims, nuns and children among them, as hostages. The hijackers demanded John Paul meet with them. It's the Pope's custom to send messages to the leaders of the countries over which he flies. The one to the leader of South Africa was courteous but rather cool. And he was hoping that some not too distant day, South Africa would change its ways and he could go there. But it was the storm in mountainous Lesotho that determined the timing. The pilot said he couldn't land there. It had to be Johannesburg. So now the Pope was forced to accept South African hospitality and transport for a 5-hour journey by road across one of the most hardcore racist parts of the country. And tonight, his arrival in Lesotho was marked by cheers and by tragedy. John Paul could hear the sound of gunfire as police brought in from South Africa to help Lesotho's security forces clashed with the hijackers. By the time it was over, 3 guerrillas and at least 1 hostage were reported dead, victims of the violence of southern Africa that the Pope had come to try to end. Bert Quint, CBS News, Johannesburg.
The United States reported today it now believes Libya can make chemical weapons and is about to start full-scale production. A State Department spokesman called the development particularly worrisome in view of Libya's alleged support of terrorist groups. FBI Director William Sessions said today he has disciplined 6 employees of the FBI for the way they, quote, investigated, unquote, a group opposed to President Reagan's policies. Phil Jones has our report.
It was a rare sight, the FBI director coming to Capitol Hill to announce that the FBI was punishing the guilty and the culprits were within the agency. The problem was FBI spying on opponents of Reagan administration Central American policy from 1983 to 85. CISPAS, the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador, was suspected of terrorist links, although none were ever found. The FBI continued to investigate even after the Justice Department had called for an end to the surveillance. Director Sessions said today 6 FBI employees have been censured or suspended, and 1 quit before being fired.
The mistakes in judgment that took place during the CISPAS investigation were serious ones, and I cannot emphasize too strongly my firm conviction that there is no place for such mistakes in the work of the FBI.
Sessions also tried to squelch reports that spying had been ordered for political purposes.
There is no evidence that the White House or anyone acting on behalf of the White House gave instructions, requested information, or otherwise attempted to influence the CISPAS investigation.
But critics who exposed the spying by obtaining internal FBI files claim today that there are documents which indicate it was more than a group of overzealous FBI agents.
We believe that it was no management problem or mistake. We believe that this was political surveillance from the beginning to the end.
The action announced today was against relatively low-level officials, but the FBI director claimed that policies have been tightened, and if it happens again, heads will roll at the top. Phil Jones, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
People have a nicer smile, a brighter day, walking short a mile. People have a better time around a better Raisin Bran.
Raisin Nut Bran tastes better. Tastes better than Kellogg's, better than most. It's got juicy nut-covered raisins and big, crisp flakes.
Oh, people have a better time around a Raisin Nut Bran.
The best tasting Raisin Bran.
For Vanish Drop-Ins, the Bull Brothers.
I pop in Vanish Drop-Ins and look so clean. So drop in Vanish Drop-Ins.
Vanish Drop-Ins are here. Just drop one in the tank to help keep your bowl looking clean and smelling fresh for weeks. And since drop-ins dissolve completely, you never touch them again. What could be easier?
So drop in Vanish Drop-Ins.
And when you brush, try Dual Action Liquid Vanish. It freshens the bathroom and it out-cleans Lysol on tough rust stains below the waterline. Liquid Vanish makes your toilet sing.
Hemorrhoids. They hurt, burn, and swell. Over the years, more doctors have recommended Anusol than Preparation H to relieve the hurting. Anusol is the word to remember for relief.
When your coffee is rich and satisfying, like your time alone, and it's naturally decaffeinated, it's necessarily Nescafe.
Great coffee blends to taste your way. That's necessarily Nescafe.
The Commerce Department today reported the U.S. trade deficit narrowed to $9.5 billion in July. That's the lowest monthly imbalance since December 1984. Analysts said this 28% improvement from June reflected a small increase in exports and a dramatic decline in imports. The improved trade picture is seen as a major factor in this country's better-than-expected economic performance. Economists said more than half the nation's economic growth this year came from the narrowing trade gap. There remains, of course, plenty to worry about in today's trade figures, and as usual, the nation's biggest single deficit involved trade with Japan last month, a $4.4 billion imbalance. But in the face of widespread agonizing about the economic future, Japan also is a source of the real gold And in the second of our series, Bob Fall found America's comeback symbolized by the performance of middle-sized U.S. companies in Japan.
Question: what do a sophisticated synthesizer, high-tech industrial glue, and old-fashioned sippin' whiskey have in common? Answer: American ingenuity and a growing piece of the Japanese market.
We are pleased with the progress in Japan.
The big boys like IBM complain they're losing market share, but medium-sized companies are doing very well, thank you. In the last 6 years, foreign sales by mid-sized firms surged 20% a year, 5 times faster than all other American exporters.
We're doing extremely well, and we're going to get bigger.
How do they do it? Upstart and Sonic takes on Japanese giants Casio and Yamaha by building a better mousetrap. And Sonic synthesizer software is superior to anything Japan makes.
Our product will do a lot of things that competitors' products won't do.
Low prices help, and Sonic's is rock bottom, but they're not essential. This American-made glue sells for twice as much as its Japanese competition.
The technology that goes into our product is better than anybody else can supply in Japan.
So while most VCRs bought by Americans are made in Japan, all those sets are held together with glue made in America.
American companies can prosper here if they're in tune with the times, can cash in on Japan's changing taste. In this country, Scotch used to be king. Now bourbon is coming on strong, which is good news for some good old boys back home in Tennessee.
Jack Daniel's Japanese sales are growing 25% a year, even though its price, $60 a bottle, is 3 times more than the local brew. What sells Jack Daniel's in Japan is prestige.
It's Jack Daniel's snobbish bourbon is for young, executive people.
Successful people drink bourbon.
That's right.
Fuddy-duddies drink Scotch.
That's right.
Some mid-size American companies flourish in go-go Japan because they carve out a special niche. Domino's was the first to deliver pizza. And sometimes the smaller company is more flexible, can react quicker.
Some American company, we ask some question, but they do not answer quickly. But Loctite, they'll answer quickly within 1 day.
The successful smaller firms have also learned that the American way is not necessarily the only way, much less the right way, a lesson Detroit refuses to learn. It keeps trying to sell cars in Japan with steering wheels on the left side, even though the Japanese drive with them on the right. Attitude is one thing, style another. One successful entrepreneur here, who has her own TV show, has seen American firms go down in flames because they've offended Japanese sensibilities.
A lot of them, you know, the guys come in here and they chase the Japanese women, and then the guys get a bad name. American men get a bad name here.
Japan is not an easy place to do business. There are still trade barriers and a lot of skepticism about American quality. But the next time you hear those trade figures, don't despair. They're narrowing, and there is hope. It makes music, it comes in a tube, it's smooth, and it's made in the USA. Bob Fall, CBS News, Tokyo.
The Federal Reserve Board today said that U.S. industrial production here at home edged up a modest 0.2% in August. That's the smallest gain in 5 months, but analysts said a cooling period would be welcome after the red-hot increases of early summer.
When my arthritis pain acts up, even little things are a big effort. But I don't take aspirin anymore. I take Advil. Advil is the brand many doctors recommend for hours of relief from minor arthritis pain. You know, just 1 Advil is as effective as 2 regular aspirin. And Advil doesn't upset my stomach the way aspirin sometimes can. So now, I don't even have to think about arthritis. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
For the first time ever, Red Lobster presents 30 shrimp done 4 incredible ways for just $8.95.
You've never had so many shrimp, so many ways. Shrimp that are golden fried, scampi you just must try. Shrimp baked with lots of spice and lemon peppers, oh so nice. You've never had so many shrimp at such a price.
The deluxe shrimp sampler, just $8.95. Kids shrimp dinner, $1.95 at Red Lobster.
We know how you love seafood.
How do you figure your financial future? How do you get an advantage? Look for an edge. Look for a company that can sharpen your opportunities in mutual funds, pensions, IRAs, employee benefit plans, insurance, and much more. Look for the Principal Edge from the Principal Financial Group, one of America's largest, helping people with the fine points of their financial future. The Principal. Look for the edge.
The Soviet Union set off an underground nuclear explosion today at a test site 3,000 miles from Moscow, and for the first time, American scientists were allowed to watch. It was part of an experiment to show that the superpowers could verify compliance with treaties limiting the size of underground nuclear tests. With polls indicating Michael Dukakis is losing the defense issue to George Bush, the Democratic candidate tried out an aggressive new strategy today. As CBS News Pentagon correspondent David Martin reports, instead of knocking the weapons he opposes, Dukakis is now talking up the systems he supports.
We must have, and in the Dukakis administration we will have, strategic forces that are strong and modern and versatile.
Trying to shed the weak on defense label pasted on him by the Republicans, Michael Dukakis sounded at times today like a born-again hawk.
And I intend to go forward as planned with the Trident II sea-based missile to offset the Soviet Union's highly accurate missiles, and with the stealth bomber and the advanced cruise missile to counter improvements in Soviet air defense.
His supporters were glad to hear it.
I sense that there is an evolution taking place because of new information, because Governor Dukakis has not been as involved in these issues as he would have been had he been here in Washington, the Congress and Senate.
Dukakis has spent much of the campaign telling people what he's against. Star Wars, a fantasy and a fraud. MX missile on railway cars, sitting ducks. Midget man missile, too expensive. The B-1 bomber, doesn't work, but we're stuck with it. Underground nuclear tests, ban them. He hasn't abandoned any of these positions. Instead,
he's changed the emphasis of what he's talking about, and he's talking now much more about the things that he's for than he was.
Critics wonder if Dukakis really means it.
Among the 50 governors, Michael Dukakis has a uniquely bad record on defense. One hopes that that change reflects a truly sincere change of heart. But we have no assurance that it represents conviction rather than political calculation.
Critics such as Schlesinger suggest Dukakis just plain doesn't like the military. It is true, says his biographer, that Dukakis, like many young men, did not enjoy the time he spent in uniform.
He wasn't well suited for the Army. He didn't like it very much. He did his job. He didn't get into trouble, and he got out as quickly as he could.
Aides reject suggestions that Dukakis is anti-military, but they say he is a tough sell on military programs.
You've got to marshal your best arguments, be prepared to defend them, and he's going to work you over. But that's okay. That strikes me as just the right way to go about managing the Defense Department, particularly now.
Dukakis insists he does not intend to reduce the Pentagon budget, but his supporters admit he has come across as the cut-and-slash candidate because he has spent too much time criticizing the Reagan defense buildup and not enough time explaining his own. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
The date was set today for the one and only vice presidential debate. Lloyd Bentsen and J. Danforth Quayle will face off in Omaha October 5th, 3 weeks from today. CBS News will, of course, carry it live. Here in New York today, former Miss America Bess Meyerson went on trial. She is charged with bribing a judge and obstructing justice. On trial with the 64-year-old Meyerson is her 43-year-old boyfriend, a contractor now serving prison time on an unrelated charge, and a former New York State Supreme Court judge.
What's for breakfast, my pet?
Nuttin', honey.
Hey, that's not nuttin', honey. Those are biscuits.
Right, nuttin', honey, biscuits.
You mean there's nuttin' in those biscuits, honey?
No, honey, I mean there's nuttin', honey, in the biscuits, honey.
So where's the nuttin', honey?
In the biscuit.
In the biscuit?
Introducing new Nut and Honey Crunch Biscuits. Wholesome shredded wheat with that special nut and honey taste inside.
Hey, Wanda, there is something in this biscuit.
Kellogg's Nut and Honey.
Now in flakes or biscuits.
Crunch.
No one knows I just got dentures, and I don't want anything to blow it.
Fixodent and forget it. Fixodent helps fix loose spots for a strong hold that lasts longer than any leading cream. Use Fixodent and forget it.
Now for indigestion, gas, introducing new extra strength Malox Plus. It neutralizes more than any leading antacid and dissolves gas. Nobody does as much as new extra strength Malox Plus.
Maybe you thought the Romans didn't eat lunch. They did. Good lunch. Healthy. With fresh baked breads made from whole grain wheat and rye. Good then. Good now. In today's Roman meal. Great taste. Natural whole grain goodness. Make one meal a day a Roman meal.
Cayman. When Hurricane Gilbert hit Grand Cayman Island, it was a glancing blow, unlike what happened in Jamaica and in the Yucatan. But an amateur photographer on Cayman Island was able to shoot this home video as the hurricane rolled through. The storm whipped up 15-foot waves and dropped trees all across the Cayman Island. Scientists rate hurricanes on a scale of 1 to 5. 5 is as violent as you can get. Only 2 Category 5 hurricanes have ever hit the mainland United States. In 1935, a Category 5 killed more than 400 people in Florida. Correspondent Bob McNamara will tell you about the other one, the last time a Category 5 hurricane came rolling in.
It was August 17th, 1969, a Sunday night, and Camille, the last Category 5 hurricane, viciously slammed the Louisiana and Mississippi coasts. 30-foot tidal surges battered and shredded seawalls, and 190-mile-an-hour winds brought a hellish night.
It's 10 o'clock in Biloxi now. The wind is so strong one can hardly stand up in it. The rain is torrential. Streets are flooded.
All night, Camille's wall of water and winds slammed Biloxi, Gulfport, and Pass Christian, Mississippi.
You can envision what 22-foot tides and 220-mile winds would do.
Looked like all hell was breaking loose. Nothing in anybody's experience prepared them for what Camille did. The scores of obliterated buildings in Pass Christian. One of them, the Richelieu Apartments, where 23 of the 25 people gathered for a hurricane party were killed. Ocean-going ships were beached, and the flooding that Camille brought to the Gulf Coast was vast. But while most hurricanes dissipate after hitting land, Camille wouldn't quit. For more than a week, she swung inland over 7 states, eventually leaving a trail of death and ruin up through the Virginias that killed more than 150 and did $1 billion damage. There's no underestimating a Category 5.
A Category 5 is even more serious than what happened on Galveston in 1900, and 6,000 people died on that storm when the island literally went underwater.
Though late summer tropical storms can be as thick as the humidity on the Gulf Coast, neither generations that have survived them nor the experts that have studied them really know what Hurricane Gilbert will do. But if Camille and all her destruction has taught one lesson, it is this: it is no time to throw a party. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Houston.
With official hurricane warnings now up along the Texas coast, that's tonight's CBS Evening News. We'll be back on the air with hurricane updates, our hurricane watch through the evening. Dan Rather, see you again soon.
CBS News tracks Gilbert, one of the most destructive hurricanes ever. Harry Smith and Kathleen Sullivan continue extensive coverage tomorrow on CBS This Morning. This is CBS.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Clark. Coming up next on Eyewitness News, while Hurricane Gilbert continues its deadly trek through the Gulf, some Nashville residents breathe a sigh of relief. 2 different murder trials for just about the same crime, but the penalty very different. We'll explain.
And I'm Tom Lee. It's been a year since Metro opened its new airport terminal, and there have been a lot of changes. I'll tell you what they mean to you in a live report.
Those stories, plus a traffic ticket with $1 million mistake, coming up next on Eyewitness News.